Oh, what was that?
You weren't ready for that, bro.
Oh, ching ching.
You weren't ready.
That's how we cut. Ching ching.
Whoa!
Ching ching.
What's going on, everybody? You ready for it? Well, hello. That's right. I know you were waiting for that. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Pencil to Pencil, your favorite. I don't want to say post-pandemic.
Oh no.
Post-pandemic podcast.
This is the Okey Doke pandemic.
Well, it's like they say in Pennsylvania, there's like 17 seasons. There's like fake out spring,
right?
And then there's second winter.
Right. We're on ninth COVID, stealth COVID.
Stealth COVID, yeah. I'd like to say hello to everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. If you forgot how this works, we are coming at you from inside StreamYard. So we're not on Facebook, but we are. We're not on YouTube, but we are. So anybody that's watching, I can't see you in the chat. But if you type into your comments, if you type into your live chat, it'll pop up on my screen and I can put you on the show. So welcome, everybody. Welcome. If you remember how this works, I do.
How does it work? How does it? I forgot. Am I supposed to like start stripping now? Is that?
No, not yet. That's a little later.
Oh, okay.
I myself, Jamar Nicholas, cartoonist in good standing, it is the co-host and producer of this fine podcast. And I'm joined by the proverbial hip by my best bud, and I won't say it.
Go!
Super cool cartoonist, Mike Manley. Say hi, Mike.
Hello, everybody.
And we also have somebody else in the wings. But let me throw up these our sponsors real quick. I want to give a shout out to our good buddies at Graphically who make Clip Studio Paint. And also our buddy John Morrow, who is the publisher of Tomorrow's Publishing, the publisher of our fine magazine, Draw Magazine, where Mike Manley is the editor-in-chief.
Well, he's always having a sale now. We're clearing out the last paper copies, so soon there will only be digital copies left.
Oh, wow, Draw Magazine, that's crazy.
So you will be able to forever get PDFs, but you will not be able to get paper copies after a while.
Really? So
yeah.
you better stock up.
Yeah, yeah. And then I will probably produce an annual every year from now on.
Oh, I like it. Kind of like a double thick.
Yeah. We'll have like multiple tutorials and things like that. Just because I think the way things have gone with magazine publishing and the desire of people, like a lot of people don't want to have paper. They just want to have PDF. A lot of young people they don't want to have, like when they move, like when I move, it's going to be like Mayflower is going to have 20 trucks just to book when I move, right? Like a lot of people now that got to jump around, they don't want to have all that. They're fine to read it on the screen on their laptop. Mm-hmm. I think they're used to it.
And I think that's going to be, maybe we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. So I want to bring in our other guest. I think he's ready. I can see him in the green room. Let's bring in the formation of our podcast Voltron, Brett Levin.
Wait a minute, you got to do that thing.
And I form the head. Hey, Brett, how are you, sir?
I'm okay.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
Mama Carla says, Mike, I'm digging the shirt.
Yeah, this was a Facebook probably bootleg special. I'm sure Disney did not get a dime.
No, I'm pretty sure they
And I'm sure Steve Ditko didn't get a copy.
Mama Carla says, hi, Brett.
Hi.
Brett, what's new with you? I haven't talked to you in a while.
I finished the project I was working on for Aftershock, and I've basically just been adjusting to not having that constant deadline. And I'm a new grandfather.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, and I went up to Whidbey Island off Seattle to meet her.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fabulous. I was there for a week. Beth couldn't go because of the timing. It was just too discombobulated. So we're going back in September.
Wow, that's exciting. How was that the first time you've traveled since last year, or have you been out?
Oh, yeah. I hadn't been anywhere since November on a plane. I mean, 2019, I guess.
Wow, yeah, it's wild. And that's one thing that's I think is very interesting about this opening up of the world is that even though I'm sure there's a lot of people that are really excited to get back to normalcy, I'll say normalcy with air quotes, there's a lot of people that are still real itchy about this.
I was definitely itchy about it.
Yeah.
I forgot to turn this on.
I'm very itchy.
Yo, what up, Steve Conley? Steve Conley gives us some
Hey, there he goes.
Steve Conley is the fourth man of Pencil to Pencil.
He's the Scotty. He's the Scotty of the Pencil to Pencil.
Mr.
I love his little friend there in the foreground.
I know, right? That's a grand profile, right?
That's like an anime box cover.
Have you seen the one meme where there's the anime character? All characters with glasses in anime and manga like push their glasses up on their nose, and there's like the reflecting light. That means you're serious when you get that bling.
Let me try that.
Yeah. there you go.
Blue.
They even sell those glasses. They just have reflective light in it, and you go like that.
You just have a pasted on finger.
That's
just
right.
hangs off the front of your glass.
Oh, shout out to Mama Carla, who's a new grandma as well. Love in new life is in the air. Congratulations. Well, guys, what I want to do.
Well, I was going to mention to you if anybody's interested in this about the flight. I was really nervous, but I flew on Southwest nonstop, and they were terrific. And I didn't see a single person in the airport or any of the shuttles who weren't wearing masks. And on Southwest, they were comical about it. And they don't serve anything. I think they had water and a couple of kinds of soda. They don't do hot drinks or anything now at all because of the situation. And they both coming and going, they said the only time you can have that mask off your face is if you're literally putting something in your mouth, taking a sip. If we see it off otherwise, there's no excuses. There will be federal agents waiting to arrest you when the plane lands. That's the law. No negotiation. So everybody complied, and it was no problem.
So somebody was going to fight Nick Cage in the airport.
That's right.
Fortunately, I didn't see anything like that. So
I have to bring you in because I'm the law. That's my bad Nick Cage impression.
I actually saw that happen once, though, many years ago. This was in the 90s. Someone smoked a cigarette in the lavatory, and there was 2 cops waiting for him, federal cops.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
behind us, and Katie, my daughter, is now 27. She was about 5 or 6, and so they were right behind us, and she was sort of fascinated by this whole process. Never seen anyone arrested before.
Was that America's favorite cigarette break? That old ad where you'd have like the cigarette would get broken. Well, I don't remember which cigarette that was, but they used to have all those.
Yeah, I remember those.
Were they advertising it because it was so long? That's why it kept getting broken.
Right. Yeah.
Well, there was a thing in the hood, and this is like another part of our new culture because you can't advertise cigarettes anymore the way you used to. Like every neighborhood.
No more Joe Camel.
Yeah, the Marlboro Man, Joe Camel. In the hood, you would have a lot of Newport menthol cigarette ads and Cools with a K.
Yeah.
And one thing that I always found interesting is the Cool ads. There would be like this really slick Billy D. Williams looking dude holding a cigarette in his mouth, and the cigarette was like turned up like a pipe, like it was just like a 90-degree angle.
You know what that means? That's that's subliminal. Like Joe Camel was like all these sexual parts put together. It was all subliminally designed.
It's funny though to talk about things like that. People, I think we're in a different age now, but people were really kind of they wouldn't believe you when you would talk about subliminal messaging and
They Live. It was like the They Live era.
Yeah, right. And it's like it's not even like folding a dollar bill and making some sort of weird like Illuminati thing, but it's just like, yo, you see right there, see the way his nose is made? No, man, no, you made that up, or you have a vivid imagination. But this, we're at a different time now. Everything is made up.
Well, I think subliminal is done differently now. I mean,
It doesn't have to be subliminal. They just come around and say it.
Yes, we have President Subliminal will be taking the podium. With all the craziness that has gone on since we were on our hiatus.
I know,
right? I mean, it's like a whole different world out there now, and it's ever evolving. I know for a lot of teachers and people going back to school in the fall, a lot of people this week are starting to go with their children to schools and do visitations and check out the dorms and all that. It's going to be very impactful, I think, come the fall, where you have people that have to be vaccinated, don't want to be vaccinated. I just saw that the New York Comic Con sold out in 12 hours, right? Yet COVID is doubling, I think, this week in New York. Cases went up. So I think, again, that's going to be very interesting to see how that impacts upon our industry. I'm not going to any shows until at least 22, until we see how far we get down the road with the variant. I mean, since we went on hiatus, I had both shots of the Johnson Johnson. No, Pfizer. Both of the Pfizer. You finished your first graphic novel of Leon, right? You could talk about that.
Yeah. A lot has happened since we talked last year.
I thought you looked tired, Jamar.
I always look tired.
You should have that. You've got your goat is longer too. Like you're getting the Gandalf the Grey kind of goatee now.
That's my secret, Brett. I'm always tired. A lot has transpired since we last talked, and a big part of the hiatus for me is that I just had to turn off some dials so I could finish getting this Leon the Extraordinary book finished. It was a heavy lift. It was 271 pages, and
that's nothing.
I do that. You do that every weekend. But and it's also like working with a new company and everybody kind of finding their footing and finding that working rhythm. And I'm already started scripting the second book, so I feel like I'm already in a better place. So I think it was well worth it, and that's just something else under my belt, which I'm really excited about. We got a couple of thanks for coming back. Our buddy Marshall says, "Glad you guys are back." Thanks, Marshall.
How long has it been since there was one?
I think we stopped in April, right? April or May, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was in April.
Yeah, that's crazy. So speaking about going back to conventions, and anybody in the room who's watching live, let us know what you think about going back to shows. Are you one of the people that already booked your tickets for New York? Are you like, hell no, I'm not doing it?
You can't wait to just get in that filthy men's room after about 5 minutes, where it looks like you threw a bomb in the latrine.
Our buddy Bill O'Donnell says a lot of folks don't miss con crud.
No.
So, and for you guys, for Mike and Brett, I know how Mike feels about going back to shows. Do you think anything will change permanently for you? Like, would you never go back to the movies? Would you never do a show again? Like, is everything going to be virtual now? Any big thoughts about that?
I'm not too keen on going back to shows at the moment. This thing's still unfolding. Obviously, we're in the middle of it, not the end of it. I'm in a state where they were at really high compliance. I'm in Arizona, so it's not known for its liberal attitudes about a lot of things, but for some reason they really did a great job of rolling it out, and so we're not having a lot of cases here. But I just, nobody knows how it's going to morph, and
Well, right now we have the Delta variant. So right now there's probably the Echo variant and the Gamma variant and whatever, because these things are constantly mutating all the time, and the more people that are not vaccinated and spreading the stuff between each other means that it's constantly mutating. So I pay very close attention to the news. I look at 3 or 4 newspapers a day, multiple websites. You can't just go by what they do on the news here, because they like to terrify people for ratings partially, especially CNN and Fox. I mean, they got to, if it bleeds, it's leads. So they got to make it dramatic. But if you read a little bit deeper, you realize that the rest of the world is in a way worse state than we are. Africa, South America, Brazil. They just had the comic book artist die last week. Brazilian guy, young guy. It's pretty bad. I mean, even though England is opening up next week, their cases are climbing again. So it seems like as soon as you open, give it 6 weeks, you got to slap it back down, because the cases pop back up, and people are so crazy and willing and pent up to run out and see each other and socialize, whether they have the vaccine or not, that it just keeps popping up, and that's what's happening.
Well, I don't want to turn this into the COVID hour, and I think, but at the same time, I think this is a really interesting conversation to have, as people are really torn. Like, just even being in this circle now, where my emails are starting to come in from people asking me if I'm going to do the show, or, hey, Jamar, are you free on November whatever for this thing? It's in person, and not everybody has a clear-cut answer, to that, and I think some people wiggle a little bit. And I want to feel like everybody has their own reasoning or rationale for wanting to do things. So I don't feel like anybody is right or wrong. It's really a personal opinion. But in the grand scheme of things, that Mike, you just told me, I didn't hear about New York selling out. That really surprises me. I don't know why, but that surprises me that New York sold out so fast.
I'm sure San Diego would sell out fast. I think people want to get back to normal. I mean, we have a lot of friends that we all know that make a substantial part of their living by doing comic book conventions every week. I mean, we knew guys who are doing 3 conventions a month, right? Mm-hmm. Now, just imagine, in the old days, you were still getting con crud. Everybody after Baltimore was like, oh, I got kind of sore throat. You do New York, I kind of got a sore throat. Well, now your sore throat might be like, oh, I got a collapsed lung. So it impacts our business from the standpoint that a lot of us promote stuff live. You're doing a lot of library appearances, a lot of school appearances. I was teaching a high school class that some weeks would have 50 different students from every part of the city. Yeah. And, teenagers are not vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And, that's very risky. So, I mean, it's just it affects you in ways that, anytime you have to socialize. And part of comics in the convention thing is socializing. I feel bad for the promoters because they canceled last year. Right. If you cancel because of an act of God, or the city says we're shutting it down, you don't lose your shirt. Right. But if you shut it down, then you lose your money, right? Yeah. There's a convention I would go to, the AluxCon. It's an illustration convention. Great show in Reading, Pennsylvania. It's great. You have people like Boris and Michael Whalen and Hilda Branson. A lot of really top illustrators. It's a small place, like 3 or 4 floors in like an old warehouse. Yeah. It's a great show for young artists, young illustrators to go to, because you can get right up close and talk to people. But at the same time, that's not a good environment because it's very small and very intimate, right? And so they're saying that the only people can come and go to that show this year you got to flash your card. You got to show your card for vaccination. So, how will that impact that show this year will people say, because you got some people get mad, they get mad because you got to wear a mask, right? And you got other people that don't want to go at all, no matter what. So, and then you have those people, like you said, that are in
the middle, yeah.
In the middle, and we've all had to adjust in the last almost 16 months now to working at home. My editors are all at home. I think they're just talking at King Features, like they might be going back a couple days a week. And a lot of people in animation in LA are still at home. And that has caused people to think like, well, hey, maybe I don't want to drive in traffic 2 hours back and forth every day to my job. Maybe I only want to go in the office a couple days a week. So it's going to affect a lot of creative people in ways that we don't even know yet. How's this going to be? This seems like it could easily last a couple more years, off and on. So,
and maybe a couple other things to add to this is I remember, and Bill says HeroesCon kicked it to next year. It was sad, but you can't fault them. I want to be kind of like a silver lining guy. Like I know doing a virtual convention seems really abstract to a lot of people. And there was a lot of audibles last year where people were just like, well, let's try it. Like Baltimore went all virtual. I think there was like a New York type of thing. I don't really remember too much about that. And one would think, if you look at it on the bright side, you have access to people who would never be able to go to one of those shows in person. Like somebody's in Brazil who can log in and put their face on the screen at a virtual show. But I think people were just like so like upset that it wasn't live that they kind of ignored this new opportunity.
Well, there's a lot of opportunities that are happening right now in animation because of the COVID, that they're hiring many young people remotely and from around the world. So maybe before you lived in Brazil, it's like, oh man, like we knew this guy that used to work on the Warner Brothers shows when we were working on them. And, he had to get the green card. You got to go through a lot of hoops in order to be able to come physically and work in the country. But if you can work remotely, maybe you don't have to do that. So I heard they were hiring storyboard artists from Africa and places in Europe and South America. So people are getting their chance to work on. I mean, look at Marvel and DC hire a lot of people from overseas now.
Yeah. And just for anybody who just came in, welcome to Pencil to Pencil. This is our first show back after a long hiatus. We're knocking the rust off of the show. We're knocking the cobwebs off, dusting the cobwebs off. And our buddy Marshall in the chat asked if we were having a guest. We're not doing a guest tonight. We're just catching up, right? We haven't seen each other for a long time. I know a lot of people who are watching us, I hope, missed us. So this is a great opportunity to just ask us questions, throw some things out into the world, and we'll try to answer them. We're also going to shorten this one. This is going to be a 1 hour show, just so I don't want anybody to catch a Charlie horse by going in too cold here.
Charlie horse.
So let's just kind of make it lively. See what kind of comes out of this, and we're definitely talking already about reinvigorating our guest list. I'm also thinking about some more changes to the show. If you guys came in late, you missed our little animation transition that I'll have to throw back up there for you. We're always trying to make improvements to the show, so would love to hear what you think. Our buddy Will Rosado, what up, Will? Says howdy from YouTube. Well, what are you working on these days? I just saw somebody posted a picture on Facebook of a giant Iron Man tree that had Will's name on the front of it. And I was like, oh, there's Will. So, yeah. So Marshall asked, and let's maybe go through this again. And maybe this is interesting because we talked about what we were wrapping up, but what are you working on now? So Marshall says, what has everybody been working on? Brett, what's on your table right now?
I just finished a project called The Girls of Dimension 13 for Aftershock. I think the third one is out now. There's 5 of them, so that's done. And then I'm working on a couple of things that it's really too early for me to talk about what they are.
Yeah.
But I can set my own deadlines for them.
Oh,
so that's a nice change.
Yeah.
And that's probably what I'm going to be doing from now on, is that sort of thing. I'm working on a couple of art books as well. So some of the old paintings and things that I've done will be collected, but then there'll be new work as well.
That's fantastic.
So I'm just really in the transition of getting used to this new schedule.
Yeah. So, and hold on, before we get to Mike, Brett, I have a question. How do you feel about having a free calendar for deadlines? Do you still feel like you operate under the pressure of needing things to be, glowing red on a Monday 3 weeks from now?
That's been a problem. that's the transition I was referring to. Was
right.
Because often, it's not that I'm not enthused, because I am, but the lack of sort of an existential pressure. In other words, it's always out there.
Yeah. And
if you get a little fogged on your focus or something, then you'll get a call from someone reminding you that you should just do. And I've been doing this. Well, this is my 40th year.
Wow.
I started in 1981.
I love it.
My first job from Marvel. So that's a long time.
Which job was that?
That was a Shanna the She-Devil.
So that was that fanfare job.
Yeah, and it was printed. My first published work was about 7 or 8 months later. Well, that's when I got the job, which was the Dark Crystal movie adaptation. That was the first thing I started working on.
I love when you guys talk about this stuff. You sound like old assassins talking about you remember the Smith heist? Yeah, I remember that one. Lost a lot of good guys.
But weren't you working for doing short stories for Pacific?
Yeah, at the same time. That all happened at the same time.
Was that at the same convention?
81, 80. Well, I didn't get the Marvel job via convention. I was corresponding with Al Milgram, an editor then. And I'd actually been corresponding with him since I was 13. That's when I first started bugging him.
Wow.
And it took a long time to get to the point where they were willing to start, shaping me up a little bit. Because that first job I had quite a while, because I'd send it in and they'd say, well, this is close, but just check your proportions, make sure the guys down the sidewalk can actually fit in the cars that are in the foreground, that kind of technical stuff with perspective and things. So,
do you still have pages from that?
Yeah, I think I have all of them.
Wow,
really?
You never broke anything up? You never sold anything?
I've sold some things when Pat was ill. I had some rough times there.
Yeah.
But I have most of it. And usually, if I had the whole thing, I didn't break it up. In other words, if I inked it and got it all back, I kept it together. Got all the pages back. But yeah, you get, I was 20, I think. Yeah, I was 20. So you just, as Mike knows, anybody from that era knows, the leeway to blow deadlines was not like it is today. And they just didn't, everything was coming out every month. That was right before the direct market change happened, so that there was a lot more direct dealing with the fans, not the general audience.
Mm-hmm.
So they were still working on getting those books into the 7-Eleven stands on time, or they would have to eat them, basically. So
right.
You really got trained to really move through the stuff. And even though we didn't have any digital aids at all, it seems to me that it was almost simpler to get it done. It's hard to describe. I'd have to really sit down and analyze why that could be. It doesn't make any sense. But I found it easier to turn out more work then than I do now, even with all this amazing help from the technology. It's odd. I don't know exactly what's going on there.
Because you also want to, when you're young, you want to prove yourself too. Because,
well, probably part of it was that, for sure. But you would think that having all the experience it would be quicker, you know.
Well, no Facebook. When we had less distractions when you think about it, right? I mean, how much of your day?
I'm not terribly subject to that, though. I don't spend a lot of time on the web at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of a, I don't know. I guess I just don't want, you know, also when you're learning, I guess, when you're really learning every job, you're really, really measurably getting better each time. There's a real high energy thing going on there. And you're just being pulled along on this, you know, river that's pulling all the branches and everything along with it, and you're picking up things all the time. And it seemed like, in spite of the fact that when I think about, by the time I got to doing, say, the New Mutants that had 7 or 8 characters, plus all of the characters they were interacting with, and yet somehow I was able to get that stuff done. And now I think doing a team book would be really hard for me to get that many pages done in that short a time. So I'm not sure what changed. But you know, maybe I'm just tired. I don't know.
Necessity.
Yeah.
Like I think a part of it is it's harder for people to understand that, because if you screwed up, they wouldn't give you the next job, right? Yeah. Or they would go like, okay, we like your work, but you're not a guy we're going to put on a regular book, right? You're going to get fill-ins. You're going to get, you know, you're going to get stuff like that. And if you wanted to, in order to be on time, you had to be, when the book was 12 weeks from being in the stores, that was when it would hit the first, like, the heat shield would start getting hot, right? And if you got too late, the printer charged you, because that work that slot that you bought was not there. And if they had to put something else, they penalized Marvel and DC. That's why you used to see reprint issues back in the old days, because somebody was too late and they think, oh shit, we're just going to reprint SpiderMan 62.
Wow.
Cool. They would just, they'd have it already colored. They'd have the file. They'd have everything. So they could just, you know, get Gil Kane to come in the bullpen, do a cover, Romita would ink it, boom, out the door.
And how did that reflect your payout? Because they took a bite out of your check, didn't they? If things
no, you didn't take a bite out of your check.
They usually didn't penalize the artist, but that, you know, I don't know if that's still the case or not. But no, I mean, it was a rough and tumble game, you know. I mean, in that way, of the demand that was put on you. So everybody was sympathetic usually, unless you were just really goofing off and not even trying.
Yeah.
You know. But
wow, that's it. That's really. Hold on a second.
Whoa, that's a ringtone.
Well, you know, I am from outer space. Well, you know, there's some questions for you, Brett, but I want to hear what Mike's been up to. Mike, what have you been doing?
Well, basically, I've been doing the strips, and I had a really, as people know, follow my Facebook, I had a pretty severe reaction to both of the COVID vaccines, and then I ended up having just recently had a surgery on my leg. I think it was as a result of how the vaccine affected the a vein in my leg, but otherwise, just slamming on the strips. When you're doing 2 strips, you just get on the treadmill and you just never
get off.
Yeah. I'm looks like I will be launching a web store with one of the T-shirt companies. I'm still going around the last few things with them. So I'm going to take a bunch of the wind down, specifically the Skull Kids, and put those up to make a T-shirt. I'm planning a graphic novel with them. I've got like 40 pages roughed out, and then I have to decide whether I want to do a Kickstarter or do I want to try to shop it around and find a publisher. It seems like Kickstarters are pretty much like what a lot of people we know are doing. They are just doing Kickstarters. They're not even going to publishers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm going to be doing that, and then just life, man. You know.
Yeah.
You had to have a tree cut down, and you know you got to like, oh, I got a washing machine in my house, but yet I always have 2 weeks worth of laundry for some reason. You know what I mean? It's
ain't that the way?
You know, no matter what, if you had a washing machine right here, you'd still have 2 weeks of laundry right there, right?
thanks for our good buddy Notorious JRD had a couple of well wishes for you, Mike, on your recovery.
I can actually show you a week's worth of. I pulled them up. You can see. I can show a little bit of process. I got the strips I just turned in this week, so you can see the pencils and the inks. If I share my screen. And
while Mike's doing that, Brett JRD just asked, Brett, would you consider a newspaper strip gig like Mike's?
The simplest answer I can give is no. No, that's too much work. I mean, at one point I might have been up for it, but I turned 60 last year, so I will be 61 next month. Wow. So I love to work, but what Mike does is probably the worst kind of pressure because there has to be something in the newspaper every day, so he can't ever, say, give me a week off and run reruns of Nancy or something. He has to.
Can you see? Can you see this?
Hold on, let me biggerize this. Yeah, no, that looks good. That's good.
Okay. So this is the pencils. The Phantom is breaking back into Boones Bay prison to
literally
rescue. Yeah, to breaking. He just was in the prison, and now he's breaking back into the prison to rescue this character, Servana, who was like a pirate. These are a story, and she was put into prison back when Paul Ryan was still drawing it. So there's the pencils.
Wow.
And then there's the inks. So these are all inked. I'm still, again, one of the fallouts from the whole COVID thing is in the last year or the last 15 months, however long it's been now, I'm doing everything inking digital because my background artist, Liang, my assistant, she lives in Philly, but she's not commuting back and forth to the studio. Yeah. So I pencil the backgrounds and then I send it to her, and then she'll ink like all the fun stuff like the bars. And then so there's the digital inks.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And so I still pencil it out. I pencil it tight enough for me to be able to ink it, and then we work back and forth. I'm looking forward to the day that she can come back over, because usually what I would do is I would lay this out, and then she would pencil that and then ink it. So I would lay everything out where I wanted, and then she would pencil that. So.
JRD asks, is this from the same storyline from a couple months ago, or is this new?
No, this is a new storyline because there was a little interlude between the two storylines, and so now he's going back to rescue her, which may have long-term consequences for the Phantom's legacy. Let's say if I can say that. So we tend to. I think Tony is writing a story might take a year and a half. So he writes really long. He plots like he would used to plot out a year's story at a time. He'd have a conference with him, making features, and say, "Well, this is what I'm thinking about doing." So we just had one where the Fandom went into the prison to break out this guy who was a police chief in Mexico, which related to another old Phantom story. So just like Spider-Man or Batman, the character's been around a long time. You've got reoccurring characters. And so I just did a story with characters who had been in that. I think this was around 2010. So, 10, 11 years ago. And then they come back into the strip. And so, it's interesting to me because I don't know the Phantom that well, and I'm always learning a little bit more about him. Like I know Spider-Man, or I used to know Spider-Man pretty good, but
he lived in an apartment complex down the street.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I used to see him every day.
You see him at the bodega.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But yeah, one of the things about doing the strips like that is you have a long history, and there are people who've been reading it since 1936, and there are people that are real super fans of any of this stuff, and they know the material inside or out. So,
Mm-hmm. I was going to say something about, and I love the energy that we're giving right now. But I was thinking while you were showing your pages, Mike, that I'm sure there's somebody who would see those pages and just, instead of looking at the dope pencils and the magnificent inks, go, I bet I could figure out a funnier thing for the Phantom to be saying right now.
It's funny you mentioned that, because there was a thread on Twitter the other day where there was these fans saying that professionals should let fans write on stuff and take over stuff, and that the fans should get together and vote whatever fan idea they like the best, and then the fans should be able to contribute or join with the professional and say, no. I know you wrote 17 episodes of the original Star Trek. I know Star Trek. You don't know Star Trek. I know Star Trek. I've never met a deadline, right? I've never had to work through a crisis.
Right.
I'm 10 times more professional than you, and you need to give me your spot.
Is that the curse of fandom?
One of them, along with like sweaty palms and unwashed hands and fat.
Well, to love something so much that it starts to cloud your judgment, I think is a really interesting thing about fandom.
Well, there's that toxic side of fandom, I think, that really super developed because of social media. And I think there was another interesting article I read relating to this. Was a young girl who started blogging during the initial boom of the YA books years ago. I think she's in her 20s now, and she was talking about how toxic social media has become towards authors, because somebody will dig up something and put it out of context, and if you don't agree with it and you don't snap to and go like I'm with whatever your thing is, they just like pile on people. And there's that aspect to it now, I think, where they want to try to take you down. If you don't agree with me, I'm going to burn you. I'm going to want to take you down.
Right. And you had to really work for that back in the day. You had to actually write a letter and send it into the comic book publisher, and maybe it'd wind up in your.
Gotta get my white out. Gotta get my liquid white.
And then maybe it would show up in an issue of Alpha Flight a couple months later, right? Like, I think, well, and I just want to be sure that I'm clear, and I do this a lot. When I talk about fandom, I'm not talking about fans. I think those two totally different things. Like a fan of something is awesome, but it's kind of like the mob mentality of a thing can totally warp anything out of proportion. You know what I mean? So for people like in that trash can over at Comics Kingdom, the comments are horrible. Like, everybody we know that does strips always says, don't read the comments, right? Because there's just like a weird party going on down there where they're all trying
to. It's
a
party for them, right?
Right.
And they're sort of using the strip as an excuse to make fun,
right,
or make jokes. It's like their comedy gold. Like, this is my subject, and I'm going to make fun of it so I can get the other troll people to make fun, and they go back and forth who can top each other.
Right. And well, the funny thing about us, or you guys, or even like Terry Beatty and the rest of our buddies that do strips, is that a lot of the people in those kind of forums and fandoms and communities think that you're not thick-skinned enough to be able to. You're supposed to take that. Well, you're a professional, Mike Manley. You should be able to just look the other way and let us have our fun, and not to think that you're human and this stuff hurts in a way, because this is your life and this is your life's blood that you do, and it's just a joke to other people. you know?
I was a guy, this is several years ago now, who came on my blog and was a troll who had come from Comics Kingdom and come over on my blog and was making stuff. And I, deleted his stuff and I wrote him, how would you like me to come in every day to your job and just mock you in front of your boss and your fellow employees? Just mercilessly, just, like do a Dave Chappelle routine on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would like that, right? But people somehow think, well, just because I feel entitled to be able to act like a monkey's ass and jump up on the table, you should tolerate that. You should say that's okay. You should be disrespected in a public forum. I'm sure there were always those kinds of people.
Yeah.
But the level of toxicity that I see, again, I think that was the point of that article that I had read about Twitter, that it was so toxic now for authors that what used to be a good thing and a good way to promote books and a good way to promote things to libraries, a good way to have a conversation, a good way to maintain contact with people and build your audience and build your brand and have an honest, now the pool is just so polluted and toxic that for, maybe it's not a good idea for an author to be in contact that way. So you take something that could be positive
and you pervert it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then it's not good for anybody, because then all you leave are the worst people.
Our buddy Shane Klesser is a fantastic cartoonist. What's up, Shane? Shane says people don't understand the job of creating facts. I got to ring the bell for that. Shane gets the bell for that. That's true for fans too. It's not just having a good idea. And I think maybe even with things like this, or like 5x speed YouTube how-tos where somebody's just like, spitting something out of their hand.
Well, it looks like magic, right? It takes all the risk of the process out.
Right. It takes the work out of it. And people, I think it also that dilutes it too. Like, oh, well, I watched this guy's channel on YouTube and he could do it in 2 minutes. Like, he sped that up and he's been doing it for 30 years. Right.
That's the thing that you have to explain to the young artists, that like so going back to Brett's story, right? You would do this thing and you would send it at the Milgram. And then a couple of weeks or a month or so later, he would send you something back with maybe a layout or a draw over or a comment. So there was time in between you sending stuff and getting feedback, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
During which you're always trying yourself to get better anyway.
And then now there's so much. One of the things I always tell the younger artists I know, you have to be very careful about what you see. If you see anything that says, immediate, learn these tricks overnight, anything like that sounds like, you're going to be tomorrow you're going to be, Jim Lee, tomorrow you're going to be Jack Kirby. That kind of stuff is always false, because art doesn't work like that for anyone, right?
No.
What might take you 20 drawings might take me 60 drawings. So you finally understand it in what works for you, Mm-hmm. And so I think that while there is a plethora of information and demos and a lot of great information out there now, there's also probably twice as much false stuff, or stuff that's not presented in a way that is really educational. It's entertainment. It's like infotainment.
It's infotainment.
It's not educational.
It's not even edutainment. It's infotainment.
Right.
So wait, to that point, and this is something I say to people once in a while, is that we're really thick into the new era of curated realities. A lot of social media is the best picture of somebody's duck face that they spent all afternoon trying to get the perfect shot, angle, blah blah blah. And what the viewer sees is a perfect image, and they don't know about. I talk about icebergs a lot. They don't see everything else beneath the surface, and I feel like that's also adding to this conversation of either people just disrespecting the art form or thinking that it's easy. I talk about right-click save as culture. Like, I got it off the internet, then it must be free. People getting their stuff stolen and put on T-shirt sites every day.
I probably have half the T-shirt. Like, my Facebook feed is probably because I bought this goddamn T-shirt last year, right? So I see it's my own fault, right? Because now their algorithm goes, oh, hey, we snagged one, we got them,
We got them, yeah.
I see all these ads for T-shirts. They're not paying licensing for, right? So Facebook itself is actually fostering people stealing images from other artists or other companies because they don't friggin' check any of that stuff.
But what's also interesting is that a lot of these sites now try to be in the corner of the artist. And they want to put on their sites that we make sure that all of our artists are paid.
Who says that? Who says that?
Well, I'm not going to throw all that out there, but that's nice and all. But still, if the artist is stealing people's shit off the internet, you know what I'm saying?
It's like those guys they used to shut down at the shows that were like stealing of the other artists' imagery.
But I almost feel like that toothpaste is out of the tube now. And I think the new algorithm is you figuring out how to get your stuff in front of people with the full notion that people are going to steal it, right? So,
well, every once in a while you get a young artist who goes, "Well, I don't want to put my stuff up on the internet because people are going to steal my stuff." And I think, like, well, when you're in your 20s, you got to take the risk, right? You got to take the risk to get your work out there because that's how people see stuff. Recruiters now go on Twitter and Instagram to look for artists to invite to work on shows. Editors see artists that they want to work with. Writers see artists they want to collaborate with. So, I mean, you have to risk it,
Well, that reminds me of Brett Blevins' favorite quote. If you don't risk it, you don't get the biscuit.
Wow, I just learned my new favorite quote. I was wondering what happened to it.
Oh, I fell behind the couch.
Do you still have some of those do you still have some of that correspondence with Milgram? Did you save any of that?
I probably meant to, but there's been so many moves and so much stuff happened. I haven't seen it in years.
Do you remember a couple of the things off the top of your head that it might have been the most important?
I don't actually remember him ever doing any drawings. I think he was always so busy and on the run that he would either send me back usually a package of black and white Xeroxes of other work. And he would say, study this look how the inking is treating this textures or how the backgrounds are done here or and it was great because he would send them full size. I might still have some of those, but and he would point stuff out, check this out, notice how he's handling this, that kind of thing. And then I would talk to him on the phone as well. So I don't remember him ever doing any draw overs like that. Because when I first started corresponding with him, he was actually at DC.
Oh.
And in that 78 implosion, in fact, I was supposed to get a short 8-page story in one of those horror anthologies right before that happened. So that was annoying. Took me another 3 years after that.
Wow.
Yeah, he was super helpful. And then I got as I was saying, as you mentioned, when you're waiting to hear back, I was constantly just studying, drawing new pages. And I had seen a press book for that Dark Crystal movie, and I just did 4 pages of continuity, not knowing anything about the story. I just made up stuff. And that accidentally was shown to Henson, and they liked the way the characters were drawn, so that's how I got that job.
So you sent those in to Milgram?
Yeah, every time I sent him in my next round of work on this Shanna story, I just send him other stuff I'd been doing. And no one remembers how they got over there.
That's wild.
Weezy was the editor, so I don't know if she saw them and took them, or I have no idea, but my name and address were on the top of each page back in those days. And so when nobody told me I got the script in the mail for it, and I assumed it was an accident because my name and address had been on these pages. So I thought somebody's waiting for this. So I called Milgram and said, I just got this. And he said, I don't know anything about that. Let me find out who's editing that. About a half an hour went by, and that was the first time I ever talked to Wheezy. And she called me back, and she said, yeah, I showed those pages to Henson. They like the way you draw the characters, so you're doing the book, and you got to start right away because it's already 5 weeks late. That was the first thing she ever said to me.
That's amazing.
So that's how we got started on that. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot different then, obviously. But I don't know. I mean, I did 6. Let's see. I think the book itself was 48 pages. There were 2 extra splash pages from the reprints. I painted the cover, and I did some other the back illustrations in the back, I think. And I had to do all that in about 6 weeks. So that was really going into the deep end of the pool. But when you've been trying that long, when the chance comes, you don't blow it.
So that was from, you said you were 13 to you're 20. So it was 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years of trying. And coming close a couple of times, like I said. I was supposed to do one of those 8-page stories with the, can't think of Kane was the guy's name? The host of the House of Mystery.
Oh, right, yeah.
But I never got the script because Milgram, they let everybody go with that implosion. So it took him a while to land at Marvel again. So obviously I was crushed about that. But so I just kept trying, and it finally happened. But as you've said before, Mike, I don't think, I don't even know if you can send samples in if anybody would even look at them now. I think you just have to try and connect over the web or at a convention or something.
Well, that's, I mean, it's when you explain that to a younger person now, like the whole Pangea, the whole way, the industry was so much smaller. You could actually call the editor and he or she pick up the phone, hello, and you could have a conversation, or you could write to somebody. And if you were serious, and there were also less people trying to get in. I mean, that's one of the things I think that the current generation of young people face, is that now everybody wants to be a character designer. Everybody wants to be, a concept art. I mean, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people now. Art schools all over the world. Everybody wants to be Ralph McQuarrie. Everybody wants to be the person that designs the next, works on the next Star Wars or on the next video game or the next cartoon show on Cartoon Network. There's literally probably 50, 60, 100 times as many people trying to get into the business as when we were. We were just like, there was like, you knew 3 guys in your city, this other guy knew 10 guys over here. Most people, after a year or two, fell off. You know what I mean? It's like, if you just think back to the people.
Well, I think too, if because people are inspired by the fantasy genre and all the characters and the entertainment, something else that I'm sure affecting that is now, between all the cable services and everything that's coming out, there is probably more material that comes out in a year that we saw in a decade. I mean, easily, yeah. So there was, everybody's just more saturated with it, and more people, that sparks more interest, I think.
And I have, just to make a little spicy jab in here, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's good.
I don't think that matters. A lot of the stuff we were inspired by isn't very good either.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Like Mike likes to dunk on me because I love Marine Boy, that old anime.
I used to watch Marine Boy. I chewed gum and tried to hold my breath underwater.
You hate Marine Boy. Don't lie.
Well, I'm so out of touch. I don't know who Marine Boy is. So.
Oh wow, yeah, that was like was that the early 70s?
No, that was the 60s.
It was the 60s, late 60s, like 67.
Because I'm older than you. Yeah, I'm older than you. That was. I saw that as a kid on the Bozo Show. They would Bozo Show in Detroit, which I think came out of Chicago, would run Marine Boy cartoons.
Yeah.
And that was the same era as Astro Boy and Kimbo.
Yeah.
So was it early anime?
Yeah. Same, produced by the same studio, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember Astro Boy. I remember seeing that when I was really young.
Yeah, that's
Black and white.
Cool. Yeah. Somebody gave me the box set of that. I haven't even opened it. I don't think I can watch it.
You would go over there and smell it every day. Smells like chewing. It smells like aqua gum.
I tried watching some of that. It's rough, but But that's all there was, and it was
good enough, and you loved it.
Yeah, it was fantastic because there was nothing else like it, And speaking about nothing else like it, you guys, you've been watching Pencil to Pencil. We're gonna try to do a short episode, just kind of get the blood flowing again. And I always love when all the boys are together because we always have really good, invigorating conversations. I want to talk about, before we kick out of here, you guys, I'll give anybody in a room a last call for questions before we head out. We're thinking about doing some format changes, just kind of mixing things up. There's a lot of people on the internet now doing interview shows and shoot shows, and I'm sure like everybody's passing Mike Zeck around. he's somewhere every 5 minutes on a podcast. So I think we're going to do a nice blend of creative conversation. Mike and I have been talking about doing more live drawing on the episodes and doing more kind of like flashback things, talking about like deep dives on cartoonists and illustrators and also designers and animators, along with interviews with some of our buddies and other luminaries in the industry. So you'll get a little bit kind of like a pet of four, if you will, every episode, a little tiny cake, Brett. I hate for anybody to like watch one of our shows and then at the hour 40 mark they're like, ugh, they're still talking. The Walt Simonson,
gone to sleep. Oh.
You know what I'm saying? And I think just for everybody involved, and if you know how I do things, I always want to keep it interesting. So if anybody has any ideas of what they'd like to see in future podcasts, let us know. Also, if you have ideas about guests, let us know. We have a really big Rolodex that we like to go through, but sometimes there's somebody off the beaten path we may not have heard of that might make a really good guest.
A Rolodex is something a lot of people might not have heard of too.
Yeah, what's that?
Your black book, Mike? Is that it?
Yeah, oh my God! Nobody knows what even a black book is in. Nobody knows what a book is.
I remember when I was a teenager, I had my little black book with shorty numbers in it. I had some sort of little, I forgot there was like a code. I made a little code system. I forgot what it meant. But yeah, nobody knows. And that's another thing. If you lost your phone, would you remember people's phone numbers anymore?
I would still remember like my parents' number, probably Brett's number.
I still write mine down on paper just to have a backup.
Yeah, on the back of the phone bill.
Yeah.
No, I keep them in an actual book.
Oh, you still have your phone? You still have your address book, Brett?
Yeah. Mike's. I think I have it upstairs. It's not down here right now, but yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah, there's something special about the physical. So some of the guys in the room are giving us some responses. JRD says, I love the interviews, but when y'all do boot camps, chef's kiss. So more boot camps, I hear. Okay. And then JRD also says, just keep making Pencil to Pencil the video version of Draw. You hear that, Mike Manley? Interviews, boot camps, art reviews, crusty critic reviews. Oh, I'm gonna put my beret back on. It's time. I'm going in.
Put it outside so it gets more crust on it.
And also, Brett, this is for you. I don't know how you're going to respond to this. JRD asks, Brett, how's married life treating you? How's it going?
It's fantastic. I couldn't be any happier. I was a widower for 10 years. It took me a long time to come out of my depression and shell.
Yeah.
But she's a wonderful person, and she had a lot to do with getting me back out of that. So it's been great. Fantastic.
That's so awesome, Brett, and very happy for you. That's great. So what I think we'll do, if we don't
see the ring.
Oh, the one ring. The one ring
right. that rules all.
That rules all. All right, you guys. I think I'm going to cut this loose. But thank you guys for joining us again. We're going to be back here next Wednesday at 8 p.m. EST. Please, if you don't already follow us, you may have come from different places. Our YouTube channel has a lot of fresh videos. Mike is always putting up a craft video. And I'm probably going to start putting some things up too now that I got my setup changed around. If you're watching on somebody's Facebook channel, make sure you subscribe to our Pencil to Pencil channel, our page on Facebook. And we're also on Twitter too, where we just push out announcements. So there's a million ways to get at us. All right, so look at that. Everybody's really happy for us, and I'm really happy to be back, guys. It's great.
Yeah, it's been great.
Thank you.
It's great being back in the producer's chair. So I only see goodness in front of us. So thank you guys so much for joining us. You ready for a send off? It was great talking to you guys. We'll see you next week, and don't forget to wash those Kirby hands. Nice. Oh, look at that.
I'm going to do Ditko.
Oh,
Got some Ditko. Got some Ditko hand. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
Okay.